Do you think love can survive after being abandoned twice? Emily's voice was steady, but inside her heart trembled like glass on the edge of a table. She wasn't asking a stranger. She wasn't asking for pity. She was asking herself. Because when you've been left alone in a hospital bathroom with a shaking pregnancy test, when you've cried yourself to sleep on park benches with a child clinging to your chest, and when you've spent years pretending everything is fine for the sake of someone else, you stop believing in fairy tales. Until one cold night, a man with tired eyes and a locked heart looked at you like you were worth more than survival. But healing doesn't come without fire. And when the past resurfaces, demanding custody of the one thing you love most, your strength isn't just tested, it's rewritten. This story isn't just about falling in love. It's about reclaiming your voice when the world has tried to silence it. And if you stay, I promise there's a moment coming that will break your heart wide open, only to show you how it can beat stronger than ever. Nathan Carter sat alone on a weather-worn bench in Central Park, coat collar, high expensive wool scarf untouched. The air was biting, but it wasn't the cold that made him feel frozen. It was the silence. Around him, families laughed, fireworks painted the sky with wild color, and lovers kissed under twinkling lights. But Nathan stared ahead, eyes dull, soul heavy. His life was noise, status, and control, but none of that filled the void Raquel had left when cancer took her away. Then came a voice, gentle, young. "You look sad, sir. Do you want to meet my mommy?" He blinked, turned. A little girl stood in front of him, no more than 6 years old. Mismatched socks pulled over bare feet, cheeks flushed with cold blonde curls poking from a worn knit hat. She clutched a wrinkled piece of bread, like treasure. "I thought maybe she could make you smile," she said, tilting her head with innocent certainty. Nathan stared, unable to find words. This girl, Chloe, as she later introduced herself, had no reason to speak to a man like him. No warmth in his face, no welcome in his posture. But there she was, reaching out with her tiny ice-cold hand. "I'm Chloe," she beamed. "Come on, she's over there." Curious and unsettled, Nathan stood. It wasn't like him to follow strangers, especially not children, but something tugged at him. As they walked through the park, the sounds of sparklers and distant cheers blurred into the background. He saw her mother before she said a word. A woman bent over a trash bin, sorting through discarded food containers with slow, precise hands. She moved with a strange elegance, even in such an undignified act. Her golden hair caught the glow of the street lamp, and when she finally looked up, her face shifted from exhaustion to pure alarm. "Chloe," she cried, rushing forward. "What have I told you about walking off?" She froze mid-step when she saw Nathan, tall, well-dressed, holding her daughter's hand. Her eyes narrowed with instinctual protectiveness. "I'm sorry if she bothered you," she said sharply. "I've told her not to talk to strangers." Nathan lifted his hands slowly, voice calm. "She wasn't a bother. She thought I looked lonely. She wasn't wrong." The woman pulled Chloe gently to her side. Her tone softened. "She has a big heart," she said quietly. Nathan studied her closer now. Mid-20s maybe. Young but not fragile. Worn by life but not broken. There was something graceful in her stillness, something unyielding behind her soft-spoken voice. "I'm Nathan," he offered, "and I'd like to know the name of the woman who raised a little girl this brave." She hesitated, then said, "Emily." "Nice to meet you, Emily." There was a pause, an invisible line between them, until Nathan pointed toward the hot cocoa stand glowing nearby. "May I treat you both to something warm? There's a cafe just there." Emily's jaw tightened. "That's kind of you, but we're okay." "I know," he replied, "but maybe I'm not." Another silence. Then Chloe whispered, "Can I have hot chocolate, Mommy?" "Please," Emily exhaled slowly. "Just something small," she said at last. As they walked toward the cafe, Chloe suddenly stumbled. Her eyes fluttered, and before she hit the ground, Nathan scooped her into his arms. "She's burning up," he muttered. "It's okay," Emily said quickly, trying not to panic. "She sometimes skips meals when she's excited. She just needs sugar." Without asking, Nathan rushed to the cocoa cart and returned moments later with 2 steaming cups and a sweet bun. Emily's fingers trembled as she accepted hers, not because of the cold, but the unfamiliar sensation of someone helping without expecting anything in return. They sat on a bench. Chloe sipped carefully, lips sticky with chocolate. Emily watched her daughter with focused affection. Even as a few drops spilled, Emily didn't scold. "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll clean it," Nathan asked gently. "Do you live nearby?" Emily hesitated. "We move around." "That sounds hard." "It is," she said honestly. "But it's life." A security guard passed, glancing at Emily's tattered coat and the child's bare feet. He slowed, his mouth open, perhaps too accused to scold, to shoo them away from the affluent area. But Nathan stood before he could speak. "They're with me," he said, voice cold and firm. "Is there a problem?" The guard blinked, hesitated, then walked on. Emily watched the exchange, stunned. "You didn't have to do that," she murmured. "Yes," Nathan said. "I did." They sat quietly sipping cocoa beneath trees wrapped in fairy lights. Chloe began to hum, legs swinging off the bench, and for the first time in years, Nathan felt something shift. A thawing, maybe. A breath in a sealed room. "You said you were studying once," he said. Emily nodded slowly. "Nursing, pediatric care. I dropped out when I got pregnant." "Did he help?" She shook her head. "He left before I even started to show." Nathan clenched his jaw. "And your family?" Her laugh was soft, bitter. "They were never really in the picture. School doesn't wait for real life. Rent doesn't wait. Medical bills don't care about your dreams." He looked at her with fresh clarity. Not pity, admiration. She'd lost everything and still sat here with poise, warmth, and a daughter who shone like a firecracker. Chloe curled into her mother's side, cocoa finished. Emily pulled a worn-out book from her bag. Its spine was torn, taped together with love. "Every night I make up a new story," she whispered. "She doesn't know how hard the world is. Not yet. I want to give her a little magic while I still can." She opened the book, voice soft and musical. "In a bright, cold city lived a little girl without shoes, but with the biggest heart in the world. One night she met a man with a frozen heart." Nathan listened, breath caught in his throat. He recognized the characters. He recognized himself. His hand curled tightly around his cup. Why had he come to the park tonight? And how had this girl, this woman, unlocked something he thought had died long ago? Before he could speak, Emily looked up and said, "You okay?" He hesitated. "No," he answered honestly. "But maybe I could be." She said nothing, just nodded and tucked Chloe closer under her arm. They sat together, still strangers, yet no longer alone. And something about that felt like the beginning of something he wasn't ready to name, but couldn't walk away from. "And would you have followed that little girl into the dark just like Nathan did? Or would you have kept walking? If this story touched something in your heart, please like this video and tap the heart. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life." The following week, Nathan returned to Central Park. He didn't plan to. He told himself it was coincidence, he just needed a break from endless meetings and shallow conversations. But deep down he knew. He was hoping to see them again. And he did. Emily was sitting cross-legged on the same bench, book open on her lap, reading softly. Chloe was curled into her side, eyes closed, a smudge of chocolate still clinging to the corner of her mouth. The moment was quiet, simple. But to Nathan, it looked like something out of a world he'd long forgotten, a world where love didn't cost anything. Emily looked up and smiled, not the forced, polite kind. A real one. "You came back," she said. "I didn't think I would," he admitted, "but I couldn't stop thinking about you." Her smile faltered for a beat. "Us or her?" He paused. "Both." From that night on, things began to shift. Nathan didn't just bring hot chocolate, he brought sandwiches, coats, coloring books. He helped Emily and Chloe move into a small room at Maplewood Inn, a quiet residential hotel tucked into a safer corner of the city. He told her it was temporary, just until things stabilized. Emily was hesitant, pride flickering in her eyes, but she accepted on the condition that there were no strings attached. There weren't, at least not the kind she feared. Nathan never treated her like a charity case. He showed up with warmth, not pity, and slowly Emily began to let down her guard. It was during one of those quiet afternoons that Nathan brought up the subject again. "Nursing school. There's a program not far from here," he said, handing her a brochure from St. Grace Community Hospital. "Night classes, part-time. They're still accepting applicants." Emily stared at the paper like it was too fragile to touch. I haven't sat in a classroom in 6 years, she whispered. But you haven't forgotten who you are, he replied. I'll pay the tuition? No. Her answer was immediate sharp. I don't want handouts. Nathan didn't flinch. This isn't a handout. It's a vote of confidence. She was quiet for a long moment, then looked down at Chloe playing on the floor with an old sock puppet. I never stopped wanting it. I just stopped believing it was possible. He placed the brochure on the table and stepped back. Then let's make it possible. 2 weeks later, she was enrolled. Nathan offered her a part-time job cleaning at one of his quieter offices. She accepted, insisting on contributing to the rent and groceries. 3 nights a week, she scrubbed desks while Chloe colored nearby. On weekends, Nathan would take Chloe to the park so Emily could study in peace. Sometimes he'd help quiz her with flashcards. Sometimes he'd just sit nearby with soup and silence. One rainy Tuesday, Nathan came to visit with groceries. As he approached the door to their room at the Maplewood Inn, he noticed it was cracked open. That wasn't like Emily. He knocked softly, then stepped inside. The lights were dim. Chloe was asleep on the couch, a children's book slipping from her small fingers. Emily sat at the table surrounded by textbooks and notes. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun. Her face was drawn and pale. She didn't notice him at first. He stood there watching her. She was highlighting sentences, her hand trembling ever so slightly. Emily, he said gently. She startled. Nathan, I didn't hear you. He stepped inside, frowning. Are you okay? You didn't answer my text. Chloe's sick, she admitted. Fever since this morning. I've been checking it all day. She's sleeping now. He glanced toward the couch. Chloe looked flushed, a damp cloth resting on her forehead. Have you eaten? He asked. Emily shook her head. No time. He looked at the table papers everywhere, a half-eaten sandwich, a bottle of cough syrup. You were still studying. She looked down, embarrassed. I have an exam Thursday. I can't fall behind. He moved toward her slowly. You don't have to be superhuman, Emily. Her voice cracked a little. I'm not trying to be. I have to do this. For her. Nathan sat down beside her. You already are doing it. You're doing everything. But what if I fail, she whispered. What if I can't give her more than this? What if this version of me, this tired, scraped-together version, is all I can offer? He looked at her like he'd never seen anyone more beautiful. That version saved her, and she thinks you're unstoppable. So do I. She looked away, eyes glassy. Why are you here, Nathan? Really, he didn't hesitate. Because I care. Because I've never met anyone who inspires me more. She stared at him. Her walls, brick by brick, began to fall. But the world wasn't done testing them. That Thursday morning, as Emily prepared to leave for her exam, Nathan received a last-minute invitation to speak at the Global Tech Summit in Zurich, a career-defining opportunity. But Chloe's fever had returned overnight, and Emily was nearly delirious from stress. Nathan had a choice: board the plane and speak in front of thousands, or stay behind to care for a little girl and the woman who had changed everything. He didn't even pack his bags. Instead, he made soup, kept Chloe cool, and held flashcards for Emily between her frantic pacing. When she returned that evening, exhausted but smiling, Chloe was already asleep, tucked in and safe. Emily looked at Nathan like she might collapse. I didn't want to need you, she said softly. And yet, here I am, he replied. They sat down on the worn couch, a silence growing between them. But this one was soft, familiar. And when she rested her head on his shoulder, he didn't move. Not because he was afraid, but because for once, he didn't want to go anywhere. We'll continue this story soon, but before we do, let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who changed your path with just one moment of kindness? If this story moved you, please like this video and tap the heart to support us. It truly means the world. The snow fell in soft, lazy spirals over the city-coating rooftops in a quiet, white hush. It had been a year since Nathan first met Chloe in Central Park, and everything, absolutely everything, had changed. Inside the modest stone townhouse nestled in the heart of the city, warmth pulsed like a heartbeat. The kitchen glowed under golden lights. Pasta boiled gently on the stove. Garlic bread warmed in the oven, and a chocolate cake sat proudly on the counter, decorated with uneven but joyfully placed candies by none other than Chloe herself. Nathan stood near the door, removing his coat as he watched Emily cross the room in pale blue scrubs, fresh from her shift at St. Grace Community Hospital. Her badge now read Emily Brooks RN. It had taken late nights exhaustion and more faith than she thought she had, but she'd made it. She was a nurse, a provider, a mother. And though she didn't dare say it out loud, someone who was finally beginning to believe she deserved happiness too. Chloe came bouncing down the hallway in a sparkly pink dress, holding a glitter-covered card. "Look what I made," she shouted, holding it up proudly for Nathan to see. He knelt down and took the card in both hands. Across the front in a blend of marker and glue were the words, "Our first real new year." Nathan blinked hard to clear the sting in his eyes. "It's perfect," he said softly. "Just like you." Emily watched from the doorway, heart full. She still struggled, some days still caught herself waiting for the good to be ripped away. But every moment like this helped her believe that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to run anymore. After dinner, they moved to the living room. The fire crackled quietly. Chloe curled up under a blanket between them, humming a tune as she clutched her favorite storybook. Emily reached for the matches to light the candles on the windowsill, pausing when Nathan gently caught her hand. She turned toward him. "I never told you," he said, "what that first night meant to me. You didn't just give me company. You didn't just give Chloe warmth. You gave me a reason to feel again." Emily's eyes shimmered. "I didn't do anything special. You did everything," he replied, "and not just for her." He touched his chest just above his heart. "You saved me too." She exhaled, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "I think we saved each other." He leaned in, kissing her slowly, reverently, as if the kiss was a thank you, an apology, and a promise all wrapped in one. From under the blanket, Chloe let out a squeal. You're kissing." They all burst into laughter, not the polite kind, the belly kind, the kind that comes only from knowing you are safe, home, loved. But life, even at its gentlest, doesn't unfold without tests. 3 weeks later, during a community health fair at the hospital, a man appeared. Dressed in a blazer too stiff for someone with eyes so mean, he introduced himself as Chloe's biological father. He'd heard through old contacts that Emily had cleaned herself up and was now worth something. "I want shared custody," he said coldly. "She has my blood." Emily's stomach dropped. Her hands began to shake. Nathan stepped forward, eyes dark. "You think biology gives you rights? You abandon them. People change," the man shrugged. "Some people don't." Nathan shot back. Emily could barely breathe. All the fear she thought she'd buried came rushing back. The thought of losing Chloe, even for a weekend, was unbearable. But Nathan acted swiftly, quietly. He contacted a trusted family attorney and filed for legal guardianship under protective grounds. Not for control, but for protection, for peace. In court, the judge reviewed Chloe's drawings, family portraits, featuring Mommy Nathan and herself in a field of flowers. There were no traces of the past, only warmth of the present. The man left the courtroom in silence. Back home, Emily collapsed into Nathan's arms and cried not from fear, but from relief. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "I know," he said, "but I wanted to, because this isn't just your fight anymore." That spring, Chloe's school invited her to speak at their Kindness Week assembly. Standing on stage in a clean blue dress, she clutched a microphone and told the story of the princess without shoes and the man with a frozen heart. It was the story her mother had invented that first night in the park, but this time it was Chloe's voice that carried the tale to a room full of wide-eyed children and teary-eyed parents. And when she ended with "But love makes cold hearts warm again," the audience stood and applauded. Emily watched from the back of the room, Nathan's hand in hers, and whispered, "She's becoming everything we hoped." Nathan looked at her, eyes full. "So are you." That December, the three of them sat in the same living room fire, crackling cocoa in hand. Chloe snuggled between them, sleepy but content. When the clock hit midnight, fireworks burst outside. But Nathan didn't look to the sky this time. He looked at Emily and Chloe. This wasn't the kind of family he ever imagined. It was better. It was built, not found, chosen, not inherited, and every second of it had been earned. Emily looked at him softly. "Are you ready for a new beginning?" Nathan kissed her temple. "I already got it. The moment I met you. Now let us ask you, do you believe family is defined by blood or by love and choice? Have you ever met someone who helped you heal in ways you didn't even realize you needed? Tell us in the comments what you thought of this story. If you loved it, comment number 3. If you found it just okay, hit number 2. And if you feel it didn't quite land for you, let us know with number 1. We value your thoughts. Also, tell us what country you're watching from. We love hearing where your hearts are joining us from. And don't forget to tap the heart and share this video with someone who still believes in second chances.